Hello and warm welcome to yet another exciting edition of the Final Take with me, Seni MK Marina, live from our virtual studios here in Seattle. Here is a look at what's coming up today. Institutionalizing the National People's Party, we examine the ruling NPP development program and policies as they build move towards the 2026 presidential elections in a special exclusive with Deputy NPP spokesperson Sidin Jai. Also on the program, Lamin Mane, the UDP Secretary for Foreign Affairs, and the diaspora discusses the state of affairs in the United Democratic Party and their chances of winning 2026 presidential elections. Also up, the young Pan-Africanist and founder of the visionary Pathways of Rwanda, Usman Toure, also join us for a special conversation on young people and migration. That's the final take with me, Seni MK Marina, exploring a week of current affairs, including sports, as GFF boss Lamin Kaba Bajo also join us to discuss the state of Gambian football. Now, wherever you are, thanks for joining us. Let's start with the ruling people's spokesperson, Sidin Jai. It seems that Sidi is yet to join the conversation, so we'll come back to that story later in the program. We will go live now to Mr. Kaba Bajo, the GFF president, to discuss about the state of football in the country. Now it's time for some sports, and we will bring in the Gambia football chief, Lamin Kaba Bajo, whose inspiring work shows the Gambia making significant landmarks in the game. The country now sits as one of the most respected footballing nations in West Africa after two consecutive Nation Cup appearances and a massive revolution of youth football in the Gambia. Mr. Kaba Bajo, many thanks for joining us on the final take with me, Seni Marina.
Yeah, welcome, Seni.
Thank you. Congrats on capping of the season with two of your ally associations engaged in capacity building, referee training, and the Gambia Coaches Association Convention. How do you sum up the 2023-2024 football season?
Thank you, Seni, for the opportunity. I also want to thank you for giving the platform to citizens in all aspects of life, which really contributes to national development. Really, football, as it is now, is a very big sport in the country, and the recently concluded league was one of the most successful, if not the most successful so far. The league season has gone very well, very competitive at all levels, from the first division to the second division, male and female, to the regions, and also at the level of the national teams, senior national team. We saw our second appearance at the AFCON consecutively, even though our performance really did not meet our desired results. And also the youth national teams also are very well. The schools football, our schools did very well in the Pan-African school football tournaments at the zonal level. And we saw one of the national team from the schools also participating in the continental finals held in Zanzibar a few months ago. By and large, it was a very successful year for us. And then, as you said, already scaled up with a series of capacity building and training programs, both locally and internationally. We also saw the highlight of the first ever coaches convention, which just concluded about a week ago. And with a series of it, we had the referees training with the allied referee courses, in addition to the various domestic referee training courses that are conducted across the country at every region. We've seen a series of coaches training as we speak today. The West Coast region is just concluding a week-long training coaches for D license holders at the local domestic level. And we had this across the country. Really, it's been a very, very successful year as far as Gambian football is concerned.
Mr. Bajo, you have been at the helm of affairs for Gambian football for many, many years now. And then this seems to be your final term. these achievements that you and your team achieve goes without challenges. You have a lot of challenges. A lot of Gambians now are anticipating that we'll have a complete football stadium coupled with a lot of other sport developments like grassroots football. What is holding the Gambia from playing their home games in the Gambia 3 years after our first appearance at AFCON?
Yeah, it's a very unfortunate situation. So I'm sure you're aware and the audience are aware. The National Stadium is undergoing massive remodeling and reconstruction. There's a project that's been handled by the government in its entirety. The stadium, National Stadium, belongs to the government. The GFF is a very important partner, one of the primary beneficiaries of the stadium. This situation is not what we desired, but it's really beyond our control. We are collaborating with the government, providing them with all support, technical support, and advices where there is requested to ensure that the status quo really is changed
So
to a level of play.
a lot of people confuse this. They think the Gambia Football Federation is the responsibility of the Gambia Football Federation for the management of the stadium. Can you clarify this for those watching?
Yeah, once again, for a million times now, the stadium doesn't belong to the Gambia Football Federation. It's not managed by Gambia Football Federation. It's not maintained by Gambia Football Federation. Gambia Football Federation is among the various users of the stadium. Even though we have a football pitch, but we are aware that there are many other sporting facilities there, and we use it like any other sporting facility. We have equal rights like any other person, and we doesn't go without cost even when we are using it, and it's not entirely free for the Gambia for us to play a match there. So it's not ours. We have no control over it. But as I said, we are we are the biggest beneficiaries, I would say, because the football is one of the biggest sports, or if not the biggest sport that's really used this stadium. And it's one of our key infrastructure for us to be able to run our domestic league and also to host our international matches. Thus, the current situation has put us and the government in a very serious financial situation, and it's also disadvantaged us and our players from benefiting from home support, and also disadvantaging the local fans, domestic people, for not being able to have the opportunity of watching their stars, boys and girls, playing against international opponents on their land.
Our next game is September. Are you hopeful that the boys will be able to play in the home soil to get the support they deserve from the fans? Because we understand that the Independence Stadium is already at an advanced stage for completion.
Unfortunately, no. We are all disappointed. The recent interaction we have with the government, I think the Honorable Minister himself is on record that September is not possible because there are some delays in the arrival of some of the materials that are ordered. As far as September is concerned, it is out of the equation. We've already arranged, as usual, unfortunately, to play our host match outside the country again.
Okay. It's your vision that provincial teams would participate in the GFF first and second division. Now we have Heart FC, SL United, Jara West United, all playing in the first division. How does the GFF support these clubs, ranging from administration to transport compensation?
Yeah, first of all, we really congratulate Heart FC coming from LRR to be first provincial team to play in the first division league. We had a few of them before them, as you named Jara United, Jara West United, which was preceded by Jara United, Jara West rather, and now we have Jara West United. We had the 2nd Infantry Battalion from Farafenye. We had a series of others, the Wagadu, we had the Diba Oil. We had a lot of them that really emerged from the provinces, but unfortunately could only stop at the second division. But this time around, we had the Hearts FC. We spent only one season at the second division, now promoted to the first division. Of course, we have a tradition of supporting clubs across the latter part of the country at all levels of the league, first and second division. We provide preparatory support financially, and also provide transport support for all the clubs. And then the teams, traveling from provinces, provincial regions to the urban areas to play their matches are also equally supported. Like clubs also traveling from the urban areas going to play away matches against the provincial teams in the province also accorded equal support.
Yeah.
Sometimes the amount varies because of the distances.
Mhm. There has been some complaints from sport fans that there is no enough field to accommodate all these teams. What efforts is the GFF doing to ensure that at least these clubs and football teams have enough footballing field, to achieve their dreams of playing professional football?
Yeah, that's true. That's true. The principle is that the provision of infrastructure for football is not the primary responsibility of the Gambia Football Federation, but as one of the indispensable components of playing football and ensuring that the players also have the basic infrastructure accordingly. We also ventured into building new stadia or new mini stadium or new fields and also rehabilitating some existing ones. This is part of our continuous program since 2014 when we took over, though at a little bit at slow pace because of many factors. Sometimes the process of accessing the funds and also sometimes we have some constraints in terms of the delivery by contractors. Most of them local contractors really doesn't meet, couldn't meet the deadlines. But it's primary because we know that we've seen the impact that the artificial turf made in Jara Soma and the environs because the facility really improve on the performance of the players. So we are working very hard. We are currently doing one in Nyakwai. Maybe in the next couple of months it will be available. And also we have a series of other lined up ones. We also have a cooperation with Morocco also that they will do an artificial pitch in Bansang very soon. And under the forward program, that's the FIFA projects for this current cycle, we earmark Kuntaya and Quinala to continue our expansion whilst
Yeah.
we continue completing the existing one also and improving on them.
Yeah, that's my next question about the Nyakoi mini stadium project going. We understand we lack an update from your administration with regards to the Nyakoi mini stadium, because when this project was announced, the residents in Basse, greeted it with excitement. But 6 months or a year after the project, little has been done with regards to the completion. Tell us the state of the Nyakoi mini stadium project.
Yeah, even ourselves, we are not very much happy about the slow pace of it. We didn't have much problem. The only problem was when we laid the foundation stone, it was already sometime last year, almost about this time. The rainy season has just started, just about this time. And then the field has already been planted. The idea was to compensate the farmers and then to get rid of the crops. But as human beings and as Muslims, mainly as Muslims, and also as people of from farming background, it also it became very difficult for us to just go, even as much as how much we are able to compensate a farmer. But we have it we are morally constrained to get a bulldozer or a tractor into the farms when the crops are almost looking very good, very beautiful to clear them. So we had to really slow down to allow the crops to grow, and we know how many months that would take. And when the projects, until they got to maturity, only the minimal works was able to be done. So which means the field was not actually 100% available at the time due to this constraint. And when we started also up to the time of doing the football pitch itself, we had several months of delay in terms of the availability or the securing of the topsoil to be able to put on the pitch to be able to grow the grass. And that also we had a standoff. Unfortunately, sometimes we have the contractor has a standoff with the villagers of the communities around with how to access the topsoil. I even had to make a trip with some of members of my executive and the contracts committee to go and talk to the community, and this has taken a lot of months, nothing less than 3 to 4 months. And if you take that out of it and you take out the planting season or the farming season out of that, hence the delay. That really is very unfortunate, but we understand sometimes, you take things for granted. We thought that, the contractor can take the how do you call it, the bulldozer, just go and excavate where he feels he can have the right topsoil to be able to put on the ground. But he didn't go work that way. And as I said, but it's something that we are able to manage with the local communities with the intervention of the youth of Nyakoi, the cluster village. I'm sure you are aware, Nyakoi is a cluster of about, I'm told, 11 villages, but specific the projects in Karawan itself. So
Okay.
that contributes to the delay.
Okay, Mr. Bajo, year in year out too. For the last 6 years, the people of Gunjur have played at their primary school. You know, the Nawetan is halted due to the heavy rain. You visited the project. What is holding back the completion of that particular field too?
Yeah, after we will say 6 months, 6 years of delay, with a lot of inconvenience, a lot of controversies, a lot of frustration from the community of Gunjur, the football community of Gunjur, and government football fans at large. We don't want to go back into the problems. We've been enumerating them, the reasons, but we might not be trusted, but that's not our wish. But I can assure you that the Gunjur pitch is almost nearing completion. The grass is doing very well. If it were not to allow it to grow to full maturity, even today you can go and play football there. Despite the delay, due to many factors, we really are not decided, but we are able to manage and with perseverance and resilience. And with due respect to the community of Gunjur for the delay, it's not desirable for us, and it's not even good for us. I know, but these are things that we've been talking about for the past 5 6 years. But happily now, we are almost at the end of the project, inshallah.
Yeah, going back to we're still talking about the football fields and the mini stadium. Banjul KG5 artificial turf is about to be replaced. It is a poor or a cheap quality. What do you think?
Yeah, this was the how do you call it? The turf was acquired through open competitive bidding. It was advertised in
Yeah.
the papers. We have a standing procurement committee at GFF that receive tenders, do the technical evaluation, and make recommendation. And this particular turf went through the same process. Maybe I might admit, maybe the technical evaluation really was not maybe was not really adequate as it should be to be able to detect the deficiency in terms of the quality of the turf. That's what brought about the problem. And when it started, also for sure, we talk about the quality, yes, but we have issue of usage also. Everything when things are being overused in Banjul, football is played almost every day, sometimes up to the early hours in the morning. Many, in addition to the league competition, the Navetans, you have so many organized competitions there. And things also, every item needs a breathing space. If we overuse them also, naturally that won't help also. So I think the overusage coupled with the unfortunate the situation in terms of the quality of the top really usage, because we have different categories. You have it's still a playable one. It's not something that is not for the pitch, for the pitch, and it's guaranteed. It's part of it can pass. In fact, it pass it, but we would have loved to have a much higher quality than that. But even with that, even whatever you have, the usage comes to question now, because Banjul, the whole of Banjul except the Gambia High School and maybe St. Augustine's that are not open for certain competitions. Is what KG5 is what is used for all the league matches, all the school tournaments, all the non-GFF organized. We have the bankers tournament. We have many other tournaments, and the clubs also who have chose Banjul as their home ground also use it for training for the training purposes. So the pitch really was difficult, couldn't sustain that maximum usage that was meted to it. But now
Okay.
we are talking with the Gambia, the Banjul Sports Committee. We're working very closely with them to see how we can remedy the situation.
Okay, thank you very much for those joining us. This is the final take with me, Seni MK Marina. In the studio is Lamin Kaba Bajo, the president of the Gambia Football Federation. Mr. Bajo, the Gambia national team will be entering a very tough campaign to ensure qualification to the AFCON for the third time. Do you agree that since the coming of QCell, the government increased the budget? What preparations are you doing to ensure that the Gambia enter its third AFCON competition again?
Yeah, if you're going to maximize the preparations, the technical preparation is ongoing. The coach is already in place, and he's doing his scouting, he's consulting with his technical team to build a team. At the right time, he'll call the players that he need, and then he'll call them up at the level of the administration and management. We have since discussed with the government. The budget has been submitted, and we are working on the work continues, and the operations are in place, and we are looking forward to having the two games, my day 1 and 2, to come out with maximum points as equally for October and November equally. So we are prepared. We are not going to relent in our efforts. We have a very fair group. We can sail out of it. As football, there are no longer underdogs. Tunisia, has been number one in Africa for many years, and they are still on one of the top. They are among the top. Comoros, they are not a small team. How do you call it? Madagascar also going by their 2019 AFCON appearance, and thereafter. So, but it's a fair group, and then we are hopeful that we'll be able to get out of the group to be
Mr.
able
Bajo,
to
for the
go
past
back.
couple of years, we have not seen our under 17 national team competing at WAFU under 17, under 17 AFCON, and also World Cup under 17. What happened, and what is the GFF doing to ensure that the youth teams participate in this regional and global competition? We have not seen them participating recently.
Yeah, this was just a operational and technical issues. We have programs. We all know under sevens are often controversial in terms of getting the right ages. We have the MRI system. Even the medical expert will tell you the MRI it's not 100% accurate. But since that's what's available now, CAF tend to rely on it to be able to minimize the issue of having overage players playing at that category. The last time we participated was in Senegal, and then we had a very bitter experience because the MRI test was done in this country under supervision of a CAF appointed expert who came all the way from Cote d'Ivoire. Two tests were done in Banjul here using our own machine here, and the same players who were cleared to be eligible when they went to Dakar for the tournament proper. The pre-tournament test also was done there, unfortunately. So same players who were cleared by this independent doctor from CAF were deemed not to be qualified, and we know the controversy, and then we couldn't proceed with the tournament. To avoid such a thing, to avoid everything, we don't have a final decision when it comes to MRI, but to better prepare not to leave any chances. We said, okay, let's go back to the drawing board. Let's prepare the team for as early as the 12th, the 10th, 12th, and others. We had close collaboration with the academies and especially the school football. The performance of our schools in the first edition of the African football school football competition that was held year before last year and this year. The new upper basic and scan 8 did extremely well up to continental level, and also the recently concluded one also. When now this school team was selected from a group of school student players, and we also had a team that represented the country, the girls all the way into Zanzibar. So the technicians are really confining, at least using those school children whose age we have no doubts about, that there are no uncertainty when it comes to their ages, to build a team. So I'm happy to report that Gambia will participate in the upcoming qualifiers at the zonal level. Inshallah, we'll proceed to the continental level, provided with a lot of efforts if we can secure spots. So we are back into the under 17 now.
Okay, we are running out of time, but I will ask you my final questions. Recently, we have seen that one of your staff at the GFF was involved in a sexual scandal allegation, and then a committee was established to, establish the truth. And then we understand that the particular staff has been, reinstated back to work after the committee found no wrongdoing. Tell us about this. How was the committee set up and how did they come to the conclusion?
Yeah, I think maybe I read it on one of the newspapers, but I think maybe they built the cart before the horse. There's no formal communication from the GFF about the reports of that committee, the panel, which will come out very soon. It went through a panel. A special panel was set up, because headed by a legal practitioner, who himself is the head of Gambia Football Federation. He's the GFF integrity officer, and he has a wealth of experience in such offenses relating to sex and sexual offenses. And then we were joined by some members of the executive, because these are very tricky criminal cases. There are a lot of things. It requires a lot of facts and corroboration. So I really want to allow the Gambia Football Federation formally to come out with a press release informing the public about the outcome of that panel, rather than jumping and making it public now, because it's still not entirely at my disposal. It came up and it went to the executive. The executive deliberated on it, and there's a process is still ongoing. The particular staff was sent on administrative leave to allow the investigation to continue. And upon the completion of the investigation, the report was submitted to the executive. The full executive deliberated on it, and then some steps are being taken so that we can go back
Will
to
the
what,
GFF
despite the
make
fact,
this
whatever.
report? Will the GFF make this report public? The findings?
I'm not sure. I'm not. Yeah, the findings, of course, a statement will be released out of it. But this is a very complicated one. This has to do with in both sides. The victims should be protected as much as possible. Likewise, the accused person has the right to how do you call it, the principle of innocent until proven guilty. Because so we have to be very careful about it to at least to be able to manage it, because certain things reports. But I could tell the outcome of reports in a press statement form will come out in terms of the findings, and then the recommendation and action taken by GFF that
Okay.
we can do what we can
Finally,
do.
Mr. Bajo, this might be your final term as the president of the GFF. Are you hoping to seek for re-election, or you will finally leave the presidency of the Gambia Football Federation to someone else?
You've said it all. You said final, and I can tell it's final, inshallah. I'm a believer of term limits, and I'm a believer that nobody can do it and complete yourself. This what really must lead us to say, oh, I have this to do, I have this to do, and it's never ending. What's important, we believe that we have done a little bit like what our predecessors do. So, inshallah, I believe that 12 years, 3 terms, or 4 years in the same position, I don't think there's any morality in that, to say I still have to go and do something, to continue and do something. We have a lot of, if not more, capable Gambians around who could do even better than I do. I'll be very happy to go. I'll be in the background and watch and provide any form of support, guidance, or assistance if needed, to whoever comes in, so that we can take support for that individual will do even better than what and me and my team did. So I can tell you that, inshallah, that one really is it's not even a matter of discussions as far as I'm concerned, and I'm very happy with that.
Okay. Thank you very much. That's the president of the Gambia Football Federation, Lamin Kaba Bajo, speaking to me live from Banjul about the state of football in Gambia. Many thanks, Mr. Bajo, for joining us on MK, the final take.
Yeah, welcome, and thank you, Sedi, for the opportunity.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay.
Coming next. Now the new democracy is significantly influencing the political environment and representative dialogue in governance in the Gambia. It's a trend that is engaging a broader conversation, particularly anchored on the diaspora contribution to the new democratic dispensation. Let's extend this conversation with Lamin Mane, the UDP Secretary for Foreign Affairs and the Diaspora, who is joining us live from Banjul. Welcome to the show, Mr. Lamin Mane.
Thank you very much, Mr. Marina. It's a pleasure to be with you this afternoon and to have a chat with your listeners and viewers on MK, the final take.
Thank you for joining us. It's great to have you here. How crucial are the diaspora voices and contribution to the political landscape in the Gambia?
The diaspora is an integral part of the Gambia, an integral part of the Gambian political landscape. So I think it will be important for everybody to take that into account and to make sure that we get them particularly involved in the local politics, because otherwise we'll be disenfranchising a significant component of our population. So they are entitled to vote, particularly when you consider that this is the group that is contributing each year in excess of $700 million to this country's GDP. That is in excess of any foreign direct investment. That's a significant portion of the population that should not be left out of this country. Their rights as Gambians should be entrenched. And just for the record, the Supreme Court did decide that the Gambian diaspora is entitled to vote. And the IEC chairman said that the diaspora is the 8th or 9th region, I can't remember which one of the Gambia. So they are an integral part of the Gambian constitution, political landscape. They should be entitled to exercise all their Gambian rights, full civic and political rights in this country. So that is important. Even if they didn't contribute a cent to the country, they are Gambians. So they are entitled to exercise their constitutional rights in this country. And that should be ensured and entrenched by all political parties in this country. I have been in the diaspora for many years in my life, and I know what it's like. And even if I weren't, these are people who are entitled to vote in the country and to be part of our political landscape. So yes, I totally subscribe to that.
Yeah, Mr. Mane, you are the UDP Secretary for External Affairs, engaging with the diaspora. The diaspora... Deputy Secretary. Yeah, Deputy, sorry for that, Deputy Secretary. The diaspora contributes, immensely, as you stated, in terms of remittances. And during the 2016 presidential elections, they have contributed, financially, and also, their voices to make sure that change happen. The draft constitution, which was rejected in 2022, cater for them to vote. Now that the draft is not in any way coming closer to realization, how hopeful are you that one day the diaspora will be able to vote and seek vote and to be voted into office? And what is the UDP doing to ensure that the diaspora are catered, for during elections?
Yes, the third constitution does entrench that right. That's true. But even without the third constitution, as I said, the Supreme Court has adjudicated on that matter already. So that should be a closed case. So now it is up to IEC to do what its job, to do what's incumbent upon it to ensure that the diaspora can vote. If they don't do that, we might have to go back to the Supreme Court to ask it to reissue its adjudication, because the diaspora should be allowed to vote, and we will do our utmost to make sure that they are allowed to vote in 2026. We are very strict on that, and we are going to do whatever it takes to make sure that the diaspora is allowed to vote. And in fact, that shouldn't have been any issue right now, because the IEC has received the adjudication of the Supreme Court, and the excuse last time was that there wasn't enough time to do the registration. Now there is enough time. The funding can be made available. So it is only a question of political will to make it happen. If the government and IEC do not demonstrate that political will, we will make sure that we go back to court if we need to, but we will fight for make sure the diaspora can vote. I don't see why they should be afraid of having the diaspora vote.
Your party, the United Democratic Party, enjoy diaspora support, unlike many other political parties. do you think without the diaspora voting, the UDP stand chances of winning the 2026 presidential elections?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. With or without the diaspora, we will win in 2026. But the diaspora is part of the Gambia. That's why we are fighting to make sure that they can vote. And if we enjoy a big support in the diaspora, it's just a reflection of the support we enjoy at the national level as well. And what's more, the diaspora, if you believe that you want to attract this particular component of the Gambian society, you go out and campaign with them. You do the right policies, and you adopt the right policies rather, and do the right things to make sure that they support you. They're just like any component of the Gambian electorate. You campaign with them, you do the things that you are required to do, or you adopt the policies you're in opposition to make them realize that you are the proper alternative. If you do that, they will vote for you. So I don't think anybody should be scared of the diaspora. Anybody should think that it's a monopoly. We don't have a monopoly on the diaspora. We have a monopoly right now compared to the government on good policies that we are advocating for. And it's because of the poor policies and poor practices in the government, the entrenched corruption, the entrenched incompetence, the entrenched lack of compassion, etc. These are what is affecting their reputation within the diaspora. Otherwise, they can compete in diaspora like anybody else. So that shouldn't really be an issue.
Okay. How does the party's foreign affairs policy aim to revitalize and engage the diaspora so that they can take their rightful position? What efforts is your party doing in that regard?
The thing we are concerned about is that we should not disenfranchise the diaspora. That is important. Apart from that, the diaspora, as I said, is part of the Gambian population and part of Gambian electorate. They should be able to vote and be elected. So under normal circumstances, the diaspora should have a seat or a couple of seats in parliament, right? So they should be able to put up candidates in the diaspora for the National Assembly. So they get elected and they sit in the National Assembly. This can be done in person or virtually, because the diaspora is equipped to be able to attend the National Assembly sessions virtually if it is so decided. Otherwise, they can travel to the Gambia for those sessions and participate in national debate. So that is important. And in addition, the diaspora should be able to hold positions in this country, because what we have in the 1997 Constitution is not right. You cannot disenfranchise people simply because they hold another nationality. I don't believe in that. I believe that if we do, we are depriving ourselves of a huge potential. The diaspora has a huge potential in terms of competence, in terms of qualifications, in terms of investment capacity. If you deny those people the possibility to come back here and work here and hold positions in this country, you are depriving yourself of competence that you would need. The Gambia needs all its sons and daughters to be able to implement its projects and programs. So the competence we have in the diaspora, why should we deprive ourselves of that competence? Why? We should bring them on board. We should allow them to take up their rightful positions in this country if they choose to. They should be able to have enough confidence to come and invest here if they choose to. That is their option. And that option should be available to them. So this is their discretion, rather, and the option should be available to them. They can take it or fail to take it, but the option should be available. So that is what our position is.
Okay, it's still a far cry away but the work towards 2026 for many political parties begin right now. Is UDP setting the ground to boost its prospect in the coming polls?
Oh yes, we are, because this is going to be a long, stretched out campaign, because this government has started its campaign and we're not going to be left behind. And we're going to participate. We're going to do what it takes. We are mobilizing throughout the country, and our people are crisscrossing the country. We are campaigning, even though the campaign season isn't formally open. But campaigning means meeting the people in their different communities, going to talk to them, house to house, and explaining our policies and programs to them. Because for us, it's not just a question of criticizing what the government does. What the government does, we believe is wrong. We cannot continue in this cycle of corruption We can continue this cycle of mismanagement of our resources, where only a few people get all the benefits of this country and the rest of the country suffers. That is not acceptable. We see what is happening in every sector of this country. The country is going down the drain. So we'll criticize that. But in addition to the criticism, we propose our policies and programs to the country because we believe in constructive criticism and we believe in alternative, offering the Gambians an alternative. What has the UDP got to offer? We have a 5-point agenda, for example, which is the key policy component of our work. And we refine that every now and then as we go along to make sure that it's relevant and that by the time we come to 2026, we hit the ground running. That is what we want to do. And we will continue doing that because it's important for the Gambian people to see what the UDP has to offer, not just in terms of criticism of the government, but in terms of policies and programs that we need to plan to implement.
Are these policies and programs in line with the reality of ordinary Gambians? And do you think that you'll be able to sell this plan to them, market it, and then they will accept it?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. I mean, our 5-point agenda, what is it about? The first point is education and skills development. We know that the Gambia has a lot of deficiencies in terms of education. We have the school infrastructure, but we don't have what it takes to give our kids proper education. Our kids are failing to 91% in the grade 12 exams. That is a catastrophe, national catastrophe. So we need to revise that. So we want to provide proper education and skills development for our youth. Those who want to go to the formal education can go to the formal education to university level. Those who want to do technical training can do technical training and be effective and create jobs for themselves if they need to. So we have that skills development and education. We have the empowerment because we develop the skills for the youth, etc., but we also empower them to be able to develop themselves on the job market. Those who need funding and assistance, we provide it to them through development financing. So we can have a youth bank, we can have other kinds of funding available to them. Because it's one thing to have the skills, if you don't have the wherewithal to install your business and to start it, you are not much advanced. So we believe in that empowerment. And the third sector is agriculture. We know the country has a serious problem in terms of agricultural development. There's a huge deficit. We are importing almost everything that we eat in this country. And we are spending $200 million a year importing our food, just the rice and oil and a few other commodities like that. We can do import substitution, and that's what we plan to do. We will save $200 million a year, which we can reinvest in other sectors of the economy. So these are areas where we want to have an impact in the first couple of years that we come to power. So that is the third point of our agenda, which is extremely important. We have the health sector. The health sector in this country is a disaster as well. You have hospitals and clinics and health centers that are not operational. Only the private sector is operational. The health sector has facilities. The public sector has facilities. It has personnel. But the personnel need to be upgraded and trained every now and then. The facilities have to be upgraded. You have to provide the equipment that the doctors need in the hospitals, doctors and nurses. You have to provide that. When you have hospitals that do not have proper electricity supply, they don't have proper water supply, they don't have proper dialysis machines and x-rays, what have you, how do you operate that? They become a place where people go to die. And you will not find these ministers or their families in those clinics and hospitals. They don't go there. They provide $60 million every year. This is 60 million, last year it was 40 million. They provide funding for themselves to go get treatment abroad. So they don't go to those clinics and hospitals. They don't know what they are like. We believe that that money, instead of going to provide treatment abroad, should be plowed into the health sector here to make sure that the health sector is developed. If we make sure that those who are in position of authority do not go to get treatment abroad, they will make sure that the health facilities are good for them and for everybody else in this country. Otherwise, they don't care. So that is our fourth sector. And the fifth and final point is energy and IT. We see what we're suffering in this country. Right now, as I'm talking to you, the power has gone off. Okay? So there's no power.
I have guests that are not able to join because of power connection back in the
Exactly.
Gambia.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So the power is off, the internet is intermittent, and all that stuff. So these are all the disasters we are facing in this country that UDP plans to address in its 5-point agenda. And so you say the 5-point agenda are the 5 critical areas, but in all we have 16 areas of intervention. Well, these are the 5 critical areas we will start with. So these are the things that we are proposing and selling to the country, and they'll see. So
yeah,
yes,
thank you, Mr. Mane, for that explanation about your party's 5-point agenda. Now, because we are running out of time, we have 2 other guests coming up after you. How do you rate your chances of winning against the ruling NPP, looking at what's happening in the country?
Our chances are excellent, because this government actually is campaigning for us. With all that they are doing, they are campaigning for us. When you look at this country, people are suffering to a point that we don't even need to campaign. People know what it's like to feed a family in this country. People know what it's like to put kids through school, to get health care in this country, to get the basic needs such as water and electricity. People know how all of those things are difficult in this country. People cannot meet their daily needs or put 2 or 3 square meals on the family table. Most families are going with 1 or 2 meals per day. That is a disaster. When you have a bag of rice costing minimum $2,300 to $3,400, the average Gambian family cannot afford that. Because if you want to have a decent meal in this country today, you can't go to the market with less than $500 a day. Right? $500 a day. How many people can afford that? That is $15,000 a month just for feeding, to buy fish and whatever or meat or whatever you can to put on. And that's it. In addition to that, you have to buy the rice. You have to pay for your house. You have to pay for your utilities, etc. People are just finding it extremely difficult to survive, not to live, to survive. So those are areas which we don't need to campaign. Take also the case of the recent road clearing. People who were managing to survive just by scraping through, having their small stalls, their small shops, etc., and selling by the roadside to make a living for their family. The government has demolished all of that without providing areas for them. You want to expand the roads? Fine, that's okay. But provide good areas for people to go and exercise their daily activities to be able to feed their families. But what did we see? We saw arrogance in destroying those stalls, arresting the women, throwing them into trucks and taking them to police stations, and you don't care how they survive. You don't care whether their families eat or not. You hear women pleading, look, I have got a family to feed. I am a widow. I've got orphan children. I need to feed these people. But the government does not care. You see that guy who was leading the demolition exercise, go with his police officers and hammer-wielding youth who are happy to just demolish anything. All of those things happen. We saw them here, right? We saw how people who try to exercise their basic rights are treated as well. So this government is doing all it takes to alienate the Gambian people. And the corruption, don't even talk about that. We see how much is being wasted, how much is being squandered, mismanaged. All they do today is infrastructure development, as they say, because it's a huge area for corruption. It's a huge area for corruption. The governments are seeing that. I take the simple case of Batil Harding Highway, a 22-kilometer road, which should have been built with maximum $22 million. They tell us that they have spent $79.8 million in it already. And that by the time they finish, they'll spend $150 million. So which means that as at now, $57 million have just disappeared in thin air. We don't know where it's gone, right? And by the time they finish, if they spend the $150 million they talk about for a 22-kilometer road, $128 million excess would have been spent on that road. Actually, would not have been spent, would have been just mismanaged and embezzled. So these are the sort of things we're going through. The OIC road, same thing. They told us $50 million. It's not even $20 million on those roads. They're all crumbling. So infrastructure development for them is a way of enriching themselves and siphoning of funds. The Gambian people are seeing that. People's houses have been broken during those construction works. They've not been compensated. Just this morning, somebody called me from Bufut to find out how did they get compensation. So people are having had their houses destroyed. They are not compensated. They are not doing compensating nothing for them. How can you put people in such hardship? And it's across the board.
All these things you are explaining is just a way of giving NPP a red card come 2026. But many thanks for talking to us, Mr. Lamin Mane of the United Democratic Party. Finally, before I let you go, briefly, we have seen that a lot of outcry following the land allocation issues happening in the country. People are calling on your party leader and that of Barrow to return state land. Do you think that, Dabo should return state lands, a state land that was given to him and his family?
You see, I think there is a deliberate effort to drown the fish here. Dabo was not allocated any state land. Dabo's wife and daughter, who are Gambians, entitled to apply for land, applied for land, and they were granted plots of land. And this is under the normal land allocation to Gambian citizens. So they are entitled to that, and they applied for that, and they were allocated land following the proper procedures. Now, the government is trying to draw an equivalence, a false equivalence between that and Barrow grabbing a public land and a public premises, a public house. This is a built-up house for the Chief Justice, which he allocates to himself to develop and to live there after he retires. Barrow has enough land in this country. Barrow has enough properties in this country. He himself pointed out 7 or 9, I think, in the last IEC declarations for 2021 elections. In addition to that, he's been allocated property in Brufut Heights. He has land to develop to live in. He does not have to seize the property of the Gambia government. This is an official residence. It's not an allocated plot in a layout. So what the government is entitled to give out is plots in layouts for people to occupy. But this is a residence owned by the Gambia and the Gambians and allocated to the Chief Justice. Just like we have land allocated, a property, a house allocated to the Vice President, and State House allocated to Barrow himself. So they hold these properties whilst they are in office. Once they leave, they hand the keys back to us Gambians and they move on. So the house of the Chief Justice is government property for the accommodation of the Chief Justice. He has absolutely no right to seize that property, to allocate it himself, and develop it as his residence. We have just passed the former president's bill, which will take good care of him. So he doesn't need to impound our property, seize it, and allocate it to himself. So that is one thing. When we ask him to clarify that and to refrain from using that property as his, they throw in this issue about land allocated to Dabo's family. The land was never allocated to Dabo. It was allocated to his wife and his daughter, who are Gambians and are entitled to apply for land. But now they are trying to use that as a distraction to make sure that we do not discuss the real issues. So this is what is unfortunate. And people are falling for that. And they're talking, oh, UDP and NPP are 6 and 9. No, we're not 6 and 9. We are a responsible opposition trying to do something about this country's ills, the corruption, the mismanagement, the embezzlement, the incompetence, the lack of compassion. We're trying to do something about that, as opposed to a sitting government that is killing our people in the hospitals, is killing our kids with the drug issue, Kush and the rest, is killing our people who have, our kids who have to leave the country and go the back way and die in the high seas and the Mediterranean, is killing our people in terms of poverty. So this is the government that is doing that to the Gambia. Yeah. So we are not the same. We are different, and we are working in 2 different areas, and we're in 2 different leagues. So they are a corrupt government, a dysfunctional government, a government that doesn't care about the Gambians, and we are loyal opposition that is trying to take this country to where it needs to go and to put an end to this mismanagement and corruption and bad governance. So we are absolutely not the same. And Dabo is not the same as Barrow.
Thank you very much, Mr. Lamin Mane, the UDP Deputy Secretary for Diaspora Affairs. Many thanks for joining us. For those listening to us, this is the final take with me, Seni MK Marena, live from our virtual studios here in Seattle. Mr. Mane, many thanks for joining us, and do have a wonderful weekend.
Thank you very much. Thank you. My pleasure being with you. Thank you so much for the time.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. You were watching the final take with me, Seni MK Marena. Let's take the conversation to young people who are making inspirational breakthrough in every sector with key focus on open and accountable governance and development sustainability. It's a voice that resonates across young minds in Africa, such as the Pan-Africanist and founder of Visionary Pathway Rwanda, Usman Toure, who joined us live from Kigali to discuss the challenges of irregular migration and the devastating impact on the future of young African, with particular emphasis on Gambian youth. Many thanks for joining us, Usman.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Mr. Marina. It's definitely a pleasure to finally join you on the show.
Thank you. Thank you for joining us, Osman. Osman, the continent is witnessing a tragic and has hundreds of young lives perished on the high sea, on the journeys. It is possible to curtail this dangerous venture, and how can we avert these devastations?
Thank you so much. I think generally this is a daily reality that we face every day. We see young people across the continent living, either it is through the Atlantic Ocean or it's through the desert, or we see them on flights crossing from West Africa, East Africa to the Gulf, especially with countries like Lebanon, Jordan, Kuwait, and the list goes on. So basically, it is a reality that we cannot sit anywhere, deny the fact that these are young people with potential whose, resources this continent and countries like the Gambia obviously need in order to leapfrog. The people living the continent on a daily basis are not young people that do not have skills. They are not equally young people who do not have education. Some of them have gone to best schools, they've graduated from universities, some of them are leaving their professional careers. And these are the individuals that we need in our critical sectors, like healthcare, like education, like infrastructural development, because we have engineers leaving the continent on a daily basis. So basically what we see is that Africa is losing its very best, which is the resources. And that's the people that should be building our country's future and our continent's future. Now, on what context are these individuals living? We can look at it.
That's going to be my next question. Why are young people living in Dove? Particularly in your home country, the Gambia. Just last week, almost 200 young people, nearly perished in the high seas. They are leaving en masse to Europe in search of better opportunities.
Yes, thank you so much for that question. I think countries like the Gambia, we've seen over the years of the need to improve in our infrastructure, but not only that, building platforms and hubs that would give these young individuals a hope and for a future. A lot of young Gambians that are living today is not because they have not acquired skills or they have not acquired education. They've done that. They've gone on the highest form of acquiring knowledge and skills. However, we're living in a context in which those in charge have not really done much when it comes to giving young Africans the space through which they can strive with these skills. Some Gambians have learned about programming. They can sit on a computer and do some magical stuff. But that's not the end. the infrastructure through which these computer skills, these engineering skills would give them a livelihood and would pay them for their efforts is not there. So what they ended up facing is that desperate to be in a space that gives them such opportunity. And you understand that that is a critical percentage of our population that we are losing to such markets and to such, basically jobs, and the list goes on around the world. Now, the other phase is that young individual who has been deprived of education, they've been deprived of infrastructural development, they've been deprived of almost everything that makes livelihood or a good livelihood a possibility. Now, they are at a point of saying it's either once or never. So obviously, with that desperate, with that conditions, with that frustrations about the communities and countries where they're coming from, they all invest the risk to go through this risky journey. Today, the Gambia is almost in every family that you go to, there are individuals who are victims. There are people whose brothers, whose sisters have gone through these ways, and it has some lasting negative impact on their families, and the list goes on. And before to go further, one of the things that I would also like to highlight is that number of young West Africans that are leaving to, not only West African, even East African, that are leaving to the Gulf countries. Usually we do not talk about much about this migration, but then for someone that is used to, let's say, taking a flight from the Gambia on the morning towards West Africa or to East Africa, you will realize that always there would be people coming into this flight in 10s and 20s, young girls heading to the Gulf. We see that even across East Africa as well. And usually you ask yourself, where are they going to? Engineers, you ask them, the university graduates. But what are they going to do? They're narrowing down their careers, their skills, everything that they've spent number of years learning into being what? Home cares in Gulf states. And this comes with conditions, like some of them face a lot of domestic violence, and the
Yeah,
list goes on,
abuse. Yeah.
and abuses. And up to now, this has not been addressed at national level, even at the continental level, as to what form of protocols to guide these individuals' movement from the continent to some of these countries, and how can we keep track of their progress into the countries where they are going, and we would be able to hold individual accountable if their dignity or their any form of abuse they have registered down the line.
Osman, now, do you think our governments are guilty for this migration? Because we realize that, a lot of young people are running away from repressive regimes, lack of job opportunities. And it's a responsibility of governments to provide jobs for their citizens and also to, provide skill for them. Do you think our governments are culpable for this mass migration we are witnessing?
Absolutely. Today, as we speak, about 1.5 million young individuals are on migration outside of the continent every year. Now, this burden is a big on our communities, but not only that, the governments that we elect to be at the helm of affairs, to manage, to steers, and to equally open up space where individuals can enhance their full potentials and possibilities in the country, in their countries and continent, have a big responsibility. Now, in the Gambia and many other African countries, you would realize that every government is formed on promises. They come to us and they promise that there are certain things that they want to put an end to, and that includes unemployment, for instance, providing quality education and functional education for that matter, but also, proper healthcare, and the list goes on. But down the line, this is not the deliveries that we see. In fact, very few of them act on campaign promises once they make the government, or once they come into power. Now, these affects our societies heavily, but also the future of this continent. Today we are talking about a continent that starts on almost every resources every corner of this earth needs for their survival. yet the people that live within it are the poorest people on planet Earth. Now, what these mean is there is a whole link, like a whole gap between those leading and the people that they're leading. And this gap can only be, closed whereby we track deliveries, we hold them accountable, and we are able to say, because you are not able to deliver on these promises, you therefore don't have an extension. And we've seen in conditions where even these individuals refuse to bring about that space. Individuals have taken it on themselves. We've seen the recent uprising in Nigeria, in Kenya,
Mhm.
in many other
Mhm.
African countries. We have seen the military men in uniform going to, overthrow governments in the name of what? Not being, responsive, not being responsible enough to deliver the development aspirations of the countries that they lead in. So obviously, government has the bigger chunk in this,
Mhm.
because they come to us with the promises of making things work. So
Okay.
if it
Mhm.
doesn't, they're the primary people to hold accountable for. Now, lastly, here is a big issue where most African governments are failing nowadays, and that is understanding the fact that government is not a primary job provider in this modern day and time. Government's responsibility is open up a space where the private sector players, especially your startups, your young entrepreneurs, your national industries or local industries, as whatever you may want to call it, are prioritized, are given space, are equally empowered, and you look for markets where you open up for space so that these individuals can strive. Imagine how many young Gambians are developing ideas, they're developing products that are needed in different African countries. But then there is no logistics that connects them. But
Mhm.
how is the government's responsibility in making sure that they open up this space? Now, almost every African government would use the AFCTA protocols as an excuse that, okay, now we have the Africa Continental Free Trade
Free trade.
Area
Yeah.
or agreement, so therefore everything is possible. But no, that's not the case. You move product from one African country. I can tell you this from experience. I spent the past 2 years building and working on businesses that we have taken from one African country to another. And these are the challenges. You walk into certain borders, they don't even care if these things exist or not. So proper negotiation, the political will is not there. The people in charge are not doing the groundwork to make sure
Mhm.
that those at borders respects these protocols, and the list goes on. So there is a whole lot of a thing, but I want to believe that they have a big responsibility.
Okay, Osman, my next question is how do we effectively rally against irregular migration in the Gambia, and where do we even begin this?
Yeah, one of the critical things is for us to give this a context, knowing, for instance, what are some of the impacts, and going beyond that to speak to these young individuals, because some of them we need to engage them right now. And for me, I think the solution has to even come from them instead of a government or anybody dictating. But the number one primary issue should be Gambia tackling its own challenges when it comes to opening up sectors where these individuals can be accommodated, be it the agricultural sector or industries, and the list goes on, so that these young people don't have to go to school and fear of not being employed or fear of not having a job, so therefore find all kind of means in order to go. I definitely want to believe that government should have it on its priority, that number one, the agricultural sector in the Gambia needs to open up to give more space, and also doing more on the infrastructural development, connecting different sectors whereby you create more employment, and the list goes on. But secondly, on the education system as well, most Gambians today graduate to be job seekers. Most Gambians today are graduating from schools without receiving functional education.
Mhm.
um, and the problem is at the grassroots level. Today we are talking about a future in which, I mean, more than 40% of jobs are going to be outside of the market in less than 10 years.
Mhm.
Now, what that means is, even with those that were trying with small skills and go to Europe and acquire a job, those jobs are not going to be there anymore because they're going to be automated. So there is the need to reinvest in innovation, in technology, in the school system to make sure that people are in school, they're graduating, they're acquiring skills that gives them jobs globally. But not only
Absolutely.
that, Gambia has its fundamental challenges that needs to be addressed and can only be fixed by young Gambians. It can only be fixed by skillful Gambians. So the sector and Gambia as a whole, the government, private sector, must put that priority in Gambians, restoring dignity, giving them hope, but giving them chances. The private sector needs to look into conditions where they prioritize Gambians, they prioritize, African young developers, and the list goes on into the system, because it's nothing wrong to be on trial. You can try certain things and it doesn't work. You keep trying, and obviously, or ultimately, you get to the best. Today, a key example would be, we were just talking about some of the infrastructural development, and the list goes on. China, about 30, 40 years ago, were not building bridges anywhere around the world. But today they're number one because they failed and built on that failure to be where they are.
Yeah.
So it is high time for Gambians to give this a priority and give this a chance as well.
Absolutely. For those watching us, this is the final take with me, Seni MK Marena. In the studio today is Mr. Osman Toure, a young Pan-Africanist currently based in Kigali, Rwanda. Osman, tell us about your work in Rwanda. Recently, you spent so much time in Rwanda. Tell us, what are you doing in Rwanda?
Yeah, thank you so much. So, if you know, my one of my brothers and I currently working on, different projects where we're trying to take, products that we develop all the way from Senegal to different African countries. But even without African countries, we're also looking into the global market, and the list goes on. So that is a business in separate, which brought me to East Africa. But aside that as well, I've been working with many young people that I took from Rwanda to the Gambia and to different other African countries, engaging especially on programs that we develop to help create jobs for young graduates, leaving universities, and the list goes on. But apart from that, we also look into spaces where we kind of support government initiative in developing programs that accommodate people that are graduating that doesn't have to go through struggles on finding jobs, but we place them under short-term employment, and through that they can build the experience, and also elevate through those structures to be, something in the future. So because I do some businesses, and Rwanda has definitely offered me a space in which it's conducive in doing this, and equally conducive in moving around to make sure that it facilitates easily the people that I engage and the stakeholders that I work with. So I've decided to be here. But just as a base, I still travel a lot to East Africa, to southern part of Africa, and as well as to West Africa, just as always.
No. Amazing. We are almost coming to the tail end of this program. We are trying to connect with our final guest, Mr. Sirin Jai. I'm not sure if he will be able to join the show, but we'll keep trying. Osman, finally, what's your message to young Africans, especially those who see no prospect in Africa? You were offered a lot of scholarships to study outside, but you said no, and then you decided to do everything in Africa, and you are currently living in Rwanda. So, do we see no prospect on the continent? Is there any prospect here for young people?
Yes, I think there is a lot of prospects for young Africans in the continent as well. However, this comes with a price. Usually, I say to people that intend to either leave the continent, or people that intend to go and study and do different things, that yes, it is possible. You can go all over the world and to acquire skills that will enable you to come back and impact in your community differently. However, my story is a unique one. I remember back in the days, and some of the students that I attended UTG would attest to some of the reviews and the conversations we used to have about African countries and what is possible. I used to spend a lot of time contextualizing development stories of different African countries, and Rwanda has always been a very impressive one. And I can tell you this, it has, for me, it's beyond my expectation. And having been here and lived here, studied here for the past 4 or 5 years, it has been an incredible journey for me, not only as on education, but also to opening up my belief, but also my hope for what Africa is able to do if things are right, especially with leadership. So currently, most of the work we do is built on the experience of being able to be in the continent and looking at the possibilities and opportunities. I can tell you that most of us today can sit down and talk about what this continent lack, but at the same time, almost every flight that you are in, you have European, American, Asians coming into the continent. And now you say to yourself, what are they doing here? Is if Africa is really not what it's supposed to be. So yes, we have challenges, we have difficulties, but there are potentials in either building, the future we want in both academia and I believe in business and many other aspects as well.
Absolutely. Osman, this might be my final question before I let you go. A couple of months ago, there was, a lot of when there was change in Senegal, when Usman and Jamoy Faye came into power, and these are young Pan-Africans. They believe in the Pan-African ideology, and a lot of people were like, we also need young people in the Gambia to seek for political office. And names like Osman came up, and a lot of people were like, yes, we need Osman Toure to contest for political office, like office of the president. Are we seeing a young Osman anytime seeking political office in Gambia?
I mean, I wouldn't say, a young Usman seeking political office, but I think it's high time for
Yeah.
people like, at my age, younger and even older, to give this a try, because we are at a system and at a time where things are just critical, and we find it very difficult to relate with the leadership on
Yeah.
how do they understand our current challenges as younger generation and what the future should hold for us. We wake up on days on scandals, on financial mismanagements. We wake up on days on bad governance, challenges that affects Africa's progress. And if we really want to offer solution to this, I think there is only one way, and that is the way to power. Now, as to who is to be that figure, I think what we should prioritize now as the Gambia is building the new dynamic of politics in Gambia, where we are no longer saying that it's politics as usual. We also don't want to come in, with the whole thing of, okay, we just criticizing. We want to be given space, but we want to make sure that the Gambia that we would all be fighting for, the Gambia that we would all be looking forward to, would be, a Gambia in which there would be based on strategy, would be based on vision, would be based on knowledge, and would be based on merit as well. And this must be underpinned by sound development policies, but not only policies, sound development vision that would make sure that Gambia and many other African countries can leap from their current conditions to being to spaces where development can be made a reality.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. That's the young Pan-African, Usman Toure, speaking to me live from Kigali, Rwanda. Usman, many thanks for joining us
Thank
on the
you.
final take with MK. I know it's late out there, but you have found time to join this important discussion. Thank you for joining us once again.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Okay, that's the final take with me, Seni MK Marina, live from our virtual studios here in Seattle, Washington. Unfortunately, one of our guests, Honorable Sidin Jai, is supposed to join us to discuss about the NPP program and policies, but he is not able to join us. So hopefully next week we'll try to bring him back, to have a discussion with him. So for those tuning in, many thanks for joining this show here with me, Seni Marena. Do have a wonderful Saturday. Bye-bye for now. Thank you.